If you ever wonder what it feels like to lose the person you love without ever having them in the first place, I can tell you exactly. Ethan Carter never thought a goodbye could happen before anyone actually left. But standing in the middle of a crowded airport, watching Noah Bennett look at him with confused blue eyes, Ethan realized he had been saying goodbye for years. The only difference was that Noah never knew. For 10 years, Noah had been his best friend, his favorite person, and the one person who could make a bad day disappear with a single stupid joke. They met when they were 14, two awkward kids who somehow ended up sitting together during a school field trip because everyone else had already chosen their friends. Ethan remembered Noah offering him half of his sandwich and saying, "You look like you haven't eaten since last century." It was ridiculous. It was annoying. It was somehow the beginning of everything. Years passed, and Noah became the person Ethan called when life felt impossible. Noah knew Ethan hated crowded restaurants, loved old movies, and always checked the weather twice before leaving the house. He knew Ethan's coffee order by heart. He knew when Ethan was pretending to be okay. And that was the problem. Noah knew everything about him except the one thing Ethan had spent years hiding. "You're my favorite person in the world," Noah once told him while they sat on the hood of Noah's old pickup truck, watching the stars outside a small town in Colorado. Ethan had laughed because laughing was easier than admitting the truth. Because when Noah said things like that, Ethan's heart always misunderstood. It heard promises that were never made. It created meanings that were never there. Noah was warm, loyal, and effortlessly charming. People loved him, especially women. Ethan had watched countless conversations begin with someone asking Noah for his number, and he had always smiled and encouraged him. Because that was what best friends did, right? They supported each other. They wanted each other to be happy, even when happiness meant watching the person you loved fall for someone else. Ethan convinced himself it would disappear. Eventually, a crush was supposed to fade. Feelings were supposed to get smaller when you ignored them long enough. But nobody told him that loving someone could become a habit. It was in the little things. The way Noah texted him every morning. The way he saved Ethan a seat without thinking. The way he always looked for Ethan first when something funny happened. Those tiny moments became impossible to let go of. Then came the night everything changed. Noah arrived at Ethan's apartment with the biggest smile Ethan had seen in weeks. "I need your help," Noah said. Ethan smiled back, already knowing he would say yes. He always said yes. "I met someone," Noah said. And in that one sentence, Ethan felt the world quietly shift beneath his feet. He forced himself to smile because Noah was happy. And Ethan loved him enough to pretend his own heart wasn't breaking. Ethan learned a long time ago that the hardest part about loving someone was not the distance between two people. It was standing right beside them and knowing you could never ask for more. After Noah Bennett told him he had met someone, Ethan smiled, nodded, and did exactly what he had always done. He supported his best friend, even when it hurt, even when every part of him wanted to ask a question he had no right to ask. "Who is she? Do you really like her? Have you ever looked at me the way you look at her?" Instead, Ethan simply said, "Tell me everything." Noah immediately started talking, his entire face lighting up in a way Ethan had seen 100 times before. Her name was Olivia. She was funny, confident, and easy to talk to. Noah said she made him feel calm. He said she understood him. Ethan listened carefully, pretending those words did not feel strangely familiar. Because Ethan knew Noah better than anyone. He knew the stories Noah had never told other people. He knew the dreams Noah was afraid to chase. He knew the little habits Noah did without noticing. But knowing someone deeply did not mean they would ever choose you. That was a lesson Ethan had been quietly learning for years. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became the person Noah trusted most during his new relationship. Noah asked for advice. About dates. He asked what gifts to buy. He asked if certain messages sounded too serious or not serious enough. Every time his phone buzzed with a message from Olivia, Noah smiled. Every time Noah asked Ethan for help, Ethan gave it. Because that was who he was. He loved Noah enough to put Noah's happiness before his own. But some nights, after Noah went home, Ethan sat alone in his apartment and wondered how long he could keep pretending. The hardest moments were never the big ones. They were the small ones. Like when Noah showed up with Ethan's favorite coffee without being asked. Like when Noah remembered a random story Ethan told him years ago. Like when Noah casually said, "Nobody knows me like you do." Those words should have made Ethan happy. Instead, they reminded him of the one thing he could not have. One Friday evening, Noah invited Ethan to a small dinner with Olivia. Ethan almost said no. He almost created an excuse. But then Noah smiled and said, "I really want you there. You are important to me." And once again, Ethan agreed. The restaurant was warm, filled with quiet conversations and soft music. Ethan watched Noah laugh with Olivia and realized something painful. Noah looked happy, truly happy, and Ethan could never hate him for that. Because loving someone meant wanting the best for them, even when the best thing was not you. On the drive home, Noah thanked him. "I am lucky to have a friend like you," Noah said. Ethan looked out the window at the passing city lights and forced a small smile. A friend. That was the word Noah chose. And Ethan finally understood that sometimes the person closest to your heart could still be the person furthest away from your dreams. Ethan started to realize that some moments were dangerous because they looked completely ordinary. There was no dramatic ending, no sudden goodbye, no obvious sign that something was changing. Sometimes the things that hurt the most arrived quietly, wearing the face of a normal day. A month had passed since Noah told him about Olivia, and Ethan had become very good at pretending everything was fine. He laughed at Noah's stories. He gave advice when Noah needed it. He even helped. Noah chose a birthday gift because Noah said, "You know her better than anyone." Ethan almost laughed at the irony. He barely knew Olivia at all. He only knew Noah. And somehow that was the problem. One Saturday afternoon, Noah asked Ethan to meet him at their favorite coffee shop downtown. It was the same place they had visited every weekend since college. The same corner table. The same window where they watched people walk through the busy streets of Denver. For a few minutes, Ethan felt like nothing had changed. Then Noah placed his phone on the table and smiled. "I think this could become serious," Noah said. Ethan looked at him and saw genuine happiness. That was what made it harder. Noah was not trying to hurt him. Noah was just being honest. "That is great," Ethan replied. The words came out easily. Too easily. Noah studied his face for a second. "Are you sure you are okay?" Ethan smiled. It was the same smile he had practiced for years. "Of course. Why would I not be?" But later that night, alone in his apartment, Ethan finally admitted what he had been avoiding. He was tired. Not of Noah. Never Noah. He was tired of pretending that being close was enough when every part of him wanted something more. He opened his phone and looked through years of memories. Pictures from road trips. Graduation day. Random afternoons when they had done nothing special, but somehow created memories Ethan would never forget. Noah was everywhere. In every chapter of his adult life. Ethan wondered if that was why letting go felt impossible. He was not just losing a person he loved. He was losing the version of life he had imagined with him. A few days later, Noah invited Ethan over for dinner. Nothing unusual. Just two friends spending time together. But when Ethan arrived, he noticed something different. Noah was quieter than usual. "Can I ask you something?" Noah said. Ethan nodded. Noah looked down at his hands before speaking. "Do you ever feel like people expect you to know exactly what you want?" The question surprised Ethan. Noah had always seemed confident. Certain. Like someone who never doubted himself. "Sometimes," Ethan answered carefully. Noah nodded. "I just feel like everyone thinks they know me. But sometimes I am not sure I know myself." For a brief moment, Ethan wondered if there was something hidden behind Noah's words. Something Noah was trying to understand. But then Noah smiled and changed the subject. And Ethan told himself not to hope. Because hope was the most dangerous thing of all. It could make a person hold on to a dream that was never promised. And Ethan had already spent years loving someone who never knew he was waiting. Ethan always thought the truth would feel like freedom. He never expected it to feel like standing on the edge of something he could not take back. For years, he had protected the secret hidden inside his heart, carefully placing every feeling behind jokes, smiles, and the comfortable distance of friendship. But secrets had a way of becoming heavier when they were carried for too long. After that conversation with Noah about not knowing himself, Ethan tried not to think about it. He told himself Noah was simply having a difficult moment. Everyone had doubts sometimes. Everyone questioned their path. It did not mean anything. It could not mean anything. But a small part of Ethan, the part he tried hardest to ignore, wondered if maybe Noah was beginning to see something that had always been there. That hope scared him more than anything. A week later, Noah invited Ethan to a small gathering at his apartment. It was supposed to be a simple evening with friends, but Ethan noticed Noah seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone, but never opened the messages. He kept starting conversations and then stopping halfway through. Finally, after everyone else left, Noah sat beside Ethan on the couch and let out a quiet breath. "Can I tell you something strange?" Ethan looked at him and smiled. "You have known me for 10 years. Strange is kind of your specialty." Noah laughed softly, but his expression remained serious. "I have been thinking about what you said before, about knowing someone completely." Ethan froze for a moment. He did not remember saying anything important. "What about it?" Noah looked toward the window. The city lights reflected across the glass, making the room feel quieter than usual. "I realized there are things about myself I never questioned because I was always trying to be what everyone expected." Ethan listened carefully. He wanted to ask what Noah meant. He wanted to ask if he was talking about him, but fear kept the words locked away. Then Noah said something that stayed with Ethan long after that night ended. "You are the only person I have never had to pretend around." Ethan smiled, but inside, his thoughts were racing. Because that sentence could mean everything, or it could mean nothing. And that was the cruelest part of loving someone. You could spend years learning every detail about them, but still never know what they truly felt. A few days later, Ethan reached a breaking point. Not because Noah had done anything wrong. That was what made it harder. Noah had always been kind. Noah had always been there. But Ethan was tired of hiding behind a friendship that was slowly becoming painful. So when Noah invited him out for a late-night walk through the quiet streets near their old college campus, Ethan knew something had to change. They stopped near the place where they first met years ago. Noah smiled at the memory. Funny how one random day can change your entire life. Ethan looked at him and thought about all the moments that followed. The laughter, the memories, the years of silently loving someone who never knew. Before he could stop himself, Ethan whispered, "Noah, there is something I need to tell you." And for the first time in 10 years, he decided to stop running from the truth. For a moment, the world became completely silent. Noah Bennett was standing in front of me, the person who had known me for 10 years, the person who had shared every important memory of my life, and I finally had to say the one thing I had spent years trying to hide. My hands felt cold, and my thoughts were moving faster than I could control. I wanted to take the words back before they even left my mouth, but I was tired of pretending. "Noah, I need you to know something," I said quietly. He looked at me with the same gentle expression he always had, the same expression that made it impossible to walk away. "You can tell me anything, Ethan." That was the problem. Noah always made me feel safe. He always made me feel like I mattered. And somehow, that made telling the truth even harder. I looked down at the sidewalk beneath our feet, remembering the first day we met, the first joke he told me, the countless moments where I almost said something but stopped myself. "I have been trying to tell you this for a long time," I whispered. Noah did not interrupt. He just waited. "I do not see you as just my best friend." The words were finally out. They were simple. They were honest. They were terrifying. For a few seconds, Noah said nothing. His expression changed, not with anger, but with surprise. Like he was trying to understand a sentence he never expected to hear. "Ethan." His voice was softer than usual. I immediately looked away. "You do not have to say anything. I know this is probably confusing. I did not want to keep pretending anymore." The silence between us felt endless. Then Noah took a breath. "Why did you never tell me?" That question hurt more than I expected. Because I knew the answer. Because I was afraid of losing you. Noah looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. Not because he was upset, because he was thinking. "Ethan, you are my best friend," he said. I nodded slowly. I had prepared myself for that sentence. I had heard it in my own mind 1,000 times. "I know." Noah looked away, searching for the right words. "I just never realized you felt that way." I gave a small, painful smile. "I know." The walk back home felt different. Nothing had changed, but somehow everything had. Noah still walked beside me. He still asked if I got home safely. He still cared. But there was now a space between us where the truth lived. The next few days were the hardest days Ethan had ever experienced. Noah did not disappear. He did not treat him differently on purpose. But there was hesitation now. Small pauses during conversations. Moments where Noah seemed like he wanted to say something but stopped himself. Ethan understood. How could he expect Noah to have an answer immediately? Feelings were complicated. People were complicated. But even knowing that did not make the waiting easier. Then one evening, Noah called. His voice sounded different. More serious. "Can we talk?" Ethan sat quietly, holding the phone in his hand. A part of him was afraid this was the moment everything ended. But another part of him wondered if maybe, for the first time, Noah was beginning to ask himself questions he had never considered before. Noah Bennett had always been the person who knew how to find me. When I was overwhelmed, he called. When I was having a bad day, he showed up with coffee and a terrible joke. When the world felt too loud, Noah somehow made everything feel quiet again. But after I told him the truth, I started wondering if the person who always found me was now the person I needed to hide from. The phone call I had been waiting for finally came. "Can we talk?" Noah asked. His voice was calm, but I could hear something underneath it. Something uncertain. I agreed, even though my heart already felt like it was preparing for disappointment. We met at the small park near our old college campus, the same place where we used to spend hours talking about our future. The trees were changing colors, and the cool autumn air reminded me of all the years we had shared. Noah stood across from me for a moment before speaking. "I have been thinking about everything you said." I looked down, trying to prepare myself. "Okay." He took a breath. "I do not want you to think I am ignoring what you told me. I know it took courage for you to say it." Those words surprised me. I expected confusion. I expected distance. I did not expect understanding. Noah looked at the ground. "The truth is, I have been trying to understand myself too. For years, I had believed Noah was certain about everything. He knew what he wanted. He knew who he was. But standing there, I realized he had doubts and questions just like everyone else. When you told me how you felt, I started thinking about all the things I ignored." Noah continued. "All the times I wanted to call you first. All the times your opinion mattered more than anyone else's. All the times I felt like my day was incomplete if I did not talk to you." My heart started beating faster, but I stayed quiet. I did not want to turn his uncertainty into my fantasy. I had spent too many years creating feelings that were not there. "I do not have all the answers yet," Noah admitted. "And I do not want to pretend that I do." I nodded because I understood. Love was not something someone could force themselves to feel overnight. It was not a switch that suddenly turned on. It was something people discovered, slowly and honestly. "But I do know one thing," Noah said. "The idea of losing you scares me more than I expected." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it solved everything. Not because it magically changed our lives. But because, for the first time, Noah was not looking at me as someone who was simply his best friend. He was looking at me as someone he was trying to understand. The weeks after that conversation were confusing. We did not suddenly become a couple. We did not have a perfect answer. Instead, we started talking more honestly than we ever had before. Noah asked questions. I answered. I asked questions. He answered. For the first time in years, we were not pretending. We were two people trying to understand what our connection really meant. And somewhere between the old memories and the new conversations, Noah began to realize something he had never allowed himself to consider. Maybe the person he had been searching for his entire life had been standing beside him all along. I used to believe that the hardest part of loving Noah Bennett was accepting that he would never feel the same way. I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing that maybe he could, and suddenly every possibility felt both beautiful and terrifying. After our conversations, things between Noah and me began to change. Not in some dramatic way. There was no perfect moment where everything suddenly made sense. Instead, it happened through small things. The kind of things most people would never notice. Noah started asking about my day and actually waiting for the full answer. He started remembering little details that he used to overlook. He would send me a picture of something funny he saw because he said, "I knew you would laugh at this." And every time, I had to remind myself not to run ahead of reality. I had spent years building a dream in my head. I did not want to replace one fantasy with another. One evening, Noah invited me to walk around downtown after dinner. It was a familiar routine from our college days. We used to walk for hours without any plan, talking about everything and nothing. The city lights reflected on the streets, and for a moment, it felt like we were those two teenagers again who had no idea where life would take us. "Do you remember when we first met?" Noah asked. I smiled. "You mean when you stole my seat, and then convinced me it was your seat first?" Noah laughed. "I still think I was right. You were absolutely wrong. But you stayed friends with me." I looked at him. "Yeah, I did." Noah became quiet. Then he said something I never expected. "I think I have spent a long time assuming I knew what mattered to me." I listened carefully. I thought I had everything figured out. The person I was supposed to be. the life I was supposed to have. But then I realized the happiest moments of my life were usually the ones where I was just with you. My heart felt heavy, not with sadness this time, with something unfamiliar. Hope. Noah, I said softly. You do not have to say anything because you feel guilty. His expression changed immediately. Ethan, this is not guilt. He stopped walking and looked at me. That is what I need you to understand. I have been thinking about this because I want to understand it, not because I feel forced. Those words meant more than I could explain. Because for the first time, Noah was choosing this conversation. He was not responding to my feelings. He was exploring his own. I do not know exactly what this means yet, Noah admitted. But I know that when I imagine my future, you are always there. I looked away, trying to process everything. The person I had spent years waiting for was finally looking in my direction. But this time, I did not want to rush. I did not want a perfect answer. I just wanted honesty. Then maybe we figure it out one step at a time, I said. Noah smiled. The same smile I had known for 10 years. But somehow, it felt different now. For the first time, I was not standing beside my best friend wishing for something impossible. I was standing beside someone who was finally discovering what I had always known. Some connections do not appear suddenly. Sometimes they are there from the beginning, quietly waiting for two people to become brave enough to see them. For the first time in years, I stopped wondering if Noah Bennett would ever see me differently. Instead, I started wondering if we could build something new without losing everything we already had. That was the part nobody talked about. Falling in love with your best friend was not just about finally admitting your feelings. It was about protecting the history between you while stepping into a future you had never imagined. Noah and I moved slowly. We did not try to force a label onto something we were still learning to understand. We spent more time together, but this time there was a different kind of honesty between us. We talked about fears we had never shared before. We talked about expectations, about identity, and about how strange it felt to realize that life did not always follow the path people expected. One evening, we sat outside my apartment building with 2 cups of coffee, watching the city move around us. It reminded me of all the years we had spent together, except now I was no longer hiding behind a friendship that could not express what I truly felt. Noah looked thoughtful. Do you know what I realized? He asked. I smiled slightly. That you were wrong about me stealing your seed in college? He laughed. No, I am still right about that. I rolled my eyes, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Then his expression softened. I realized I never had to be anyone else around you. I listened quietly. With other people, I always felt like I had to know exactly who I was. I had to have the right answers. But with you, I never felt like I had to pretend. Those words meant more than he probably understood, because that was exactly how I had always felt about him. Noah had been my safe place long before I admitted I loved him. The difference was that now, he was beginning to understand what that connection meant. I am still figuring things out, Noah said. And I know that might be difficult for you. I nodded. I understand. And I meant it. Love was not about asking someone to become exactly what you wanted. It was about allowing someone the space to discover themselves honestly. Over the next few weeks, we created new memories while still holding on to the old ones. We visited the coffee shop where we first talked. We watched movies we had seen a dozen times. We laughed about embarrassing moments from college. The difference was that now, every moment felt intentional. One night, Noah walked me home after dinner. Before leaving, he stopped near my door. Ethan, he said. I looked at him. Thank you for trusting me with the truth. I smiled. Thank you for trying to understand it. Noah nodded, and there was a quiet confidence in his expression that I had never seen before. We did not have every answer. We did not know exactly what the future would look like. But for the first time, we were not afraid of the unknown. Because some of the most important relationships in life do not begin with certainty. They begin with 2 people willing to be honest, patient, and brave enough to choose each other. 1 year later, I finally understood something I had never been able to accept before. Sometimes the person you are waiting for is not someone new who enters your life. Sometimes it is the person who has been standing beside you all along, waiting for both of you to become brave enough to see the truth. Looking back, I remembered how impossible everything once felt. I remembered all the years when Noah Bennett was simply my best friend, the person I loved quietly while convincing myself that friendship was enough. I remembered every moment when I wanted to say something but chose silence instead. I thought losing my chance with Noah would be the hardest thing I would ever experience. But I was wrong. The hardest part was believing that I had to choose between being honest and keeping him in my life. Because in the end, honesty was what brought us closer. Noah and I were still learning every day. We were still figuring out what our relationship meant and how to move forward without pretending to have every answer. But there was something different now. We were choosing each other intentionally. No more guessing. No more hiding. No more wondering if the other person cared. One afternoon, we returned to the old college campus where everything began. The buildings looked smaller than we remembered, but the memories felt just as powerful. We walked past the bench where we used to sit after classes, laughing about our plans for the future. Noah stopped and looked around. "It is strange being here again," he said. I smiled. "Why?" He looked at me. "Because this place reminds me how long you have been part of my life." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The quiet felt comfortable, the same way it always had. But now there was no sadness hiding underneath it. No secret waiting to be discovered. Just two people who finally understood what they had. Noah smiled and said, "I used to think love had to arrive in some huge, unforgettable moment. Like everything would suddenly become clear." I laughed softly. "And now?" He looked at me. "Now I think sometimes love is the person who remembers your coffee order. The person who stays when things are complicated. The person who knows every version of you and still chooses you." Those words stayed with me, because that was exactly what Noah had always been. He was the person who knew my fears, my dreams, my flaws, and my strange habits. He knew the parts of me I tried to hide, and somehow he never walked away. Years ago, I thought my love story was impossible because I was waiting for Noah to become someone different. I never realized the real story was about both of us becoming honest enough to recognize what was already there. That night, we sat together watching the city lights from the same place where we had once talked about the future as teenagers. The future we imagined back then looked nothing like the one we had now. And somehow, it was better, because it was real. Noah reached over and smiled. "You know something?" he said. "What?" I asked. "I think I have been choosing you my whole life. I just needed time to understand why. And for the first time, I did not feel like someone waiting for a love that could never happen. I felt like someone who had finally arrived at the place where he was always meant to be."